Hello everyone, and I'm Gary Maloney for Sacktown Slam, and this is your pre-NXT Brooklyn 3 edition of Sacktown Slam. Now, there is one piece of info I really have to get off of my chest right now, as this is a Wednesday, and NXT has yet to air, and yet I am still staggering in wonder of the stupidity of the WWE. Now, if all of you saw SmackDown last night, we know that Baron Corbin cashed in his Money in the Bank. Now, for those that didn't see it, I'll give you a brief synopsis. John Cena and Jinder Mahal were fighting each other. John Cena had given Jinder Mahal not one, but two AAs, one of which was off the top rope, which was a super AA. And, Jinder Mahal is sitting there laying dead like a fish. And all of a sudden, here comes Baron Corbin, throws the briefcase at John Cena's head, which causes a disqualification for that match for John Cena and, of course, Jinder Mahal. But then you have Jinder Mahal, he's still laying on his back. John Cena's out of the picture for the moment because he just got smacked upside the head with a briefcase. Baron Corbin cashes in the briefcase. Now, at this point, this is such a cut and dry situation for me. If Baron Corbin's going to cash in, the SmackDown before freaking SummerSlam, let him cash in and be a successful cash-in person. Take the title to SummerSlam, and then you have two fatal four-ways. Obviously, in the SmackDown situation, you're not going to take Cena away from that match because he's fucking John Cena. Love him or hate him, he's John Cena. Corbin would be the title holder, so you obviously can't take him out because he's got the title. Obviously, you're not taking Nakamura out of that because he's number one contender. And obviously, Jinder can't be taken out of that because he deserves a rematch. Ergo, there's your other title match for SummerSlam. Why did they not do it this way? Hell if I know. What they did decide to do, which makes absolutely zero sense and says fuck you to every fan out there. They had the match didn't even last after he cashed in the briefcase to Mike Chioda, who I think was the ref. He cashed it in, the match didn't even last 3 minutes. Freaking Jinder Mahal, was fighting him, was looking like he was about to get deep sixed. John Cena hits a freaking, out of nowhere fucking punch to Baron Corbin's head. And then a fresh Baron Corbin gets rolled up by Jinder Mahal. Now, Baron Corbin is 6'7", for those of you that do not know. Jinder Mahal is like 5'0". And for a guy who's 6'7" and relatively fresh to get rolled up by by Jinder Mahal, boy, that is a slap in the face to not only the fans, it's a slap in the face to Baron Corbin and shows where the fuck you see Baron Corbin in the near future. Because it sure as hell is not the WWE champion. So, I don't know where they go from here with Baron Corbin, because he doesn't have the briefcase anymore. He's already cashed that in. I mean, he's basically dead on arrival at this point for SummerSlam because he is going to get buried there. I will have my SummerSlam picks on Saturday night, and hopefully that show will be with Ivan. But until then, I'm doing this show just in case Ivan doesn't show up on time for, NXT Live Brooklyn 3. Takeover is going to be awesome, especially since I just heard it is official that Adam Cole, baby, is now with WWE and signed with NXT. And boy, the exodus of talent from Ring of Honor in the last 4 years that has gone to NXT and been successful. Oh my gosh. That is just insane. I mean, the only one I would say that was not successful is Austin Aries. That's it. I mean, that is insane. So, obviously, I do not care about what happened on SmackDown, as the rest of it was total bullshit. I mean, the matches were very few and far between. Yeah, we got a Fashion Files, which is yay. But it is honest to me that this was more of a blow-off show. Was kind of funny, though, how Shinsuke Nakamura interrupted Jinder Mahal on Indian Independence Day, which I have a hard time believing that it actually was. Granted, I didn't... I didn't... Google that. You know what? Let me Google that just for giggles right now, because I have to know if that was a real thing, and I will be able to tell all of you if that was a real thing right now. So I'm gonna do that for you, just because it's a live video and it's time for me to, face the facts. So. But for the moment, as I'm waiting, let's talk about another thing that does have to do with NXT and SummerSlam, and it's Paul Heyman. Now, Paul Heyman recently had an interview with USA Today about what he was going to do if Brock Lesnar lost, which, he's going to lose. But, if Brock Lesnar walks out of there with that title and holds it in purgatory again until, say, Royal Rumble, that would make me very upset. But, obviously I want him to lose it. I do not want him to lose it to Roman Reigns. I want him to lose it to Samoa Joe. I would be okay with Braun Strowman. But at this point, what he is saying is what he said, and I quote, "While there have been a lot of Paul Heyman guys, there's never been a Paul Heyman girl." Now, Paul Heyman has always surrounded himself with what he believed to be dominance. Granted, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking with freaking... not Damian Sandow, but Curtis Axel. I mean, Curtis Axel isn't dominant with anything, with the exception of failing and being a social outcast. But, seeing is that he has normally surrounded himself with dominance, whether it be CM Punk, whether it be Brock Lesnar, and you could even say Cesaro, especially with what he's done now. But if you're talking about women and dominance, there is only one name that comes to mind: Asuka. If Asuka loses her title to Ember Moon, which As far as predicting that one now, I am going to say this. Those two did not get a proper battle at what would have been Orlando. Considering that it's two, pay-per-views later, and she basically just got her okay to wrestle a few weeks ago, I am guessing that this is it for Asuka. She will face her first loss because there's no more reason to make her undefeated. She's past Goldberg's streak. She has been undefeated since defeating Bayley and basically running roughshod over every single woman in that division 2 times over with 2 different generations of NXT women. I would honestly say that this is it, and then she moves to the main roster maybe Monday or Tuesday night. I would prefer her to be on SmackDown, but if she is with Paul Heyman, she could be on Raw. I do not think she is needed on Raw, but if they teamed her with Paul Heyman, okay, maybe you have my vote there. Anyway, let's see if all the crap they were talking about Indian Independence Day is legit. So, I'm going to type in here, Indian Independence Day. And look at right here. That is the 3rd most looked up thing. Oh my goodness. And they have it here on Wikipedia. Holy shit. It is August 15th. And since 1947. Well, WWE. Well done for not being a bunch of racist pricks. I'll say that right now. That is not usually like WWE to drop a nugget like that of honest intelligence into our lap. So, well played. Well played. I honestly didn't see that one coming. Anyway, now let's go over another thing. I am very happy to know that Adam Cole Bye was, signed still. That's a big thing. But the next big thing is that Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano is now official for NXT Brooklyn 3. Duh, Johnny Gargano gonna win because Andrade is the fucking doormat for every fucking wrestler. I personally have not liked Andrade Cien Almas. I think his gimmick is dumb and he needs some retooling. But the fact of the matter is that this is a guy that has been walked all over, and this will be no different unless Tommaso Ciampa interferes, in which this could be a bigger, much, much bigger affair than we are assuming. So I would say on that match, I'm going Johnny Gargano all the way, because there's no reason for me to not think that Johnny Wrestling isn't going to get the job done against the jobber Andrade Cien Almas, who we have seen job to Cassius Ohno, Aleister Black, and No Way Jose, along with a slew of other names who are on the current roster of NXT. Now, the big match, Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Roode. I have heard a lot about who's going to win this match, why they're going to win this match, why people think that said person's going to win this match. This is my thinking. You're not going to sign Drew McIntyre to a WWE contract with his goal in mind of being the NXT champion without him becoming NXT champion at one of the big 4 shows. The thing is that Bobby Roode has been NXT champion now since, I believe, Orlando. I believe it was Orlando, but if I'm not mistaken, it was San Antonio, which would have been the beginning of the year. So he's been champion for 8 months now. Time to roll over the championship. I think McIntyre will make a great champion, and to be honest, nobody really knows when, Bobby Roode is going to make that jump to, the main roster. But if Brock Lesnar is, per se, walking away for 8 months or so, then now would be a great time to put Bobby Roode on Raw. Because you need a dominant force who's looking for the title. And while they have 4 of those right now in Finn Balor, they've got one in Roman Reigns, they've got one in Samoa Joe, and they've got one, in my opinion, in Braun Strowman. Beyond that, it is up to opinion, because I sure as hell am not going to say Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, in my opinion, is a mid-card act, bar none. He belongs nowhere near the Universal title, given his win and loss record, which the last time I saw was like 140-something to 420-something losses. No, you don't belong with the damn Universal title. No. Now, I want McIntyre to win. I honestly think that given how many times Bobby Roode has defended this title, he's defended it against, more recently, he defended it against Roderick Strong, which he defeated Roderick Strong. He has fought and beaten Shinsuke Nakamura, and and he beat him twice. And I don't think that he defeated anyone else for that title. So he's had 3 title matches. And then he also defeated, Cassius Ohno. So he's had 4 title matches. This would make his 5th. I think 5 is a good number to drop that title at, because that usually means you spent about a year in NXT, and for Bobby Roode, it's been about a year and a half. So I don't think if you're Bobby Roode, you want to spend more than a year and a half in NXT. I think at this point you're ready. Go to the main roster, see where you go from here, and do not, spend so much time. Don't be a Bayley. Don't spend 4 years in NXT just because you can get your way in NXT. That's not what NXT is really about. It's about rebuilding stars and making new stars. If you're not rebuilding or making anything, then you don't belong in NXT. So I honestly believe it's time to pass that torch if you're Bobby Roode. Have your next big match. Have it at Thanksgiving. That way, when the new year comes, you can start out in the Royal Rumble. That would be your best case scenario if you're a wrestling fan. Now, what Bobby Roode has in mind and what McIntyre have in mind, I have no idea. Next match. I've pretty much said what I needed to say about Ember Moon and Asuka. They're really... Ember Moon broke her arm, so she couldn't be a part of that, what was supposed to be a fatal 4-way at Chicago, so that ended up being a triple threat. Then there was a singles match with Ruby Riott, and there was a singles match. I mean, Asuka's been champion since late 2015. She went through all 2016 without being defeated. And she's gone through half of 2017, over half of 2017 without being defeated. It's time. And, I mean, you've surpassed Goldberg's record. You surpassed everyone's record. And you're still undefeated. That is a legacy that will follow you well after NXT. That is a legacy that will follow you probably to the Hall of Fame should you stay with WWE. I just think that it is time. It's time to let that title go. Because I think that if you keep holding on to it, you are essentially going to devalue yourself. Ember Moon is a great heir apparent. She is an aggressive person. She has that look, that holy shit, it's Ember Moon look going, you know, especially with the contacts in her eyes. I mean, I love it. It is, if you're dropping it to her, it's to the right person. I would not have said Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. I think they need a little bit more fine-tuning before they're ready for any title shots. I would not have said Ruby Riott or Nikki Cross, because I think they need more. They're a little blue. So, or green, in my opinion, and they just don't have that it factor yet, but they will. I'm slowly but surely they will. Then you've got the NXT Tag Team match, the Authors of Pain versus Sanity. If there was a match that, in my opinion, couldn't be called because it was so close, this would be the match. I mean, you have two of the biggest guys in Sanity versus the author Akam and Rizar from freaking the Authors of Pain. Now, the Authors of Pain have been one of the most dominant tag teams. And really, the thing is that NXT has a big shortage of tag teams. So unless Atom Cole, baby, was going to team back up with Bobby Fish and remake Red Dragon, go for it. I mean, the thing is that they could have a title change, but nobody would be leaving NXT. Because they just don't have the number of teams to do it. I mean, this could be a feud that goes into the beginning of next year. Because I don't see this. I don't see this being the last encounter. I see it being the first encounter. So keep that in mind. But I suppose if I were to choose a winner, I'm going to say Sanity, just based on the fact that Sanity needs a push. Otherwise, their dominance is going to be challenged. Because, you know, we haven't really seen much of Eric Young since he lost to Ty Dillinger. Granted, we haven't seen much of Ty Dillinger either. We haven't really seen a lot of Sanity or a lot of Nikki Cross since she lost. And, you know, I don't want Sanity to become, you know, a three-man band, because that's not what they are. They're a very aggressive, very wrestling-oriented group. And I like the way they do things. I think that match between Killian Dane and Drew McIntyre was a freaking classic that just didn't get talked enough about. But the Authors of Pain are definitely a great tag team in and of themselves. They've beaten the Revival. They've beaten, you know, DIY. They've beaten freaking Heavy Machinery. So they've beaten basically everyone. They won last year's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Maybe this year, they'll wait for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and then they'll wait for them to lose it to, I don't know, a Heavy Machinery before they move them to the upper roster. But as far as this match goes, I think I'm going to go Sanity and let the chips drop where they may. Other than that, we do not have any other matches for NXT Brooklyn 3. I mean, there are 1, 2. Oh yeah, you have Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami, which was also on there. I would expect this to be all Aleister Black. Aleister Black is the one that's getting the push right now. Hideo Itami is the heel. Aleister Black is the anti-hero. Aleister Black is a big thing right now, and he's big in the European markets. Hideo Itami is big for the Japanese markets, but they've got Shinsuke Nakamura for that. I don't see Hitami winning this at all. At this one isn't even a toss-up. Other than that, I do not see anything here about anything as far as matches. So that's a rather short list of matches. I mean, that's the NXT title match, the women's title match, the tag team match, Aleister Black and Hideo Itami, and Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Gargano. That's 5 matches for 3 hours. That, to me, seems a bit short. Now, I am sure that after NXT, there might be 1 or 2 matches that get added. But I don't know. I almost am waiting for them to pull something at Brooklyn and have Adam Cole, baby, freaking show up for a match. Because that's a big signing for them. And to have, say, Adam Cole versus Roderick Strong would be a huge, feather in their cap. In my opinion, I think that's what you want, not the kind of feather that fucking Baron Corbin got, where he got fucked up the ass with it. Personally, I just can't believe. Personally, I still cannot believe how things went down with the Money in the Bank cash in on Tuesday. I was fumigating last night and was thinking about doing a video, but I'm like, nah, let me think about this in the morning. And there's one thing about this, though, that bothers me, is that fans are like, he should get a redo. No, he should not get a fucking redo. And do you want to know why? Because SmackDown is not just becoming a land of opportunity, they're becoming a land of fucking redos. Like, you have major redo with Lana and freaking Miss Glow, She pinned her, and yet, oh no, my shoulder was up, so I get a redo, from Lana and freaking Naomi. That is a ridiculous. It's like, if the ref don't see your shoulder, that's not his problem. If you're down, you're down. I am so tired of this. Oh, well, the ref didn't see my shoulder was up, so I get a redo. No. And then, of course, we had the redo with AJ Styles and freaking Kevin Owens. Oh, the ref didn't see my shoulder was up, so I get a redo. And oh, the ref's eye was blinded because, you know what? No. If you're going to turn SmackDown into the land of jackassery, then may as well not even bother to watch. Because at least Raw does not do these fuck finishes that are ridiculous. Like a referee getting hit, automatically, one of the things that I noticed when that happened was that he didn't just call for the bell. Like, why are you not calling for the bell? He just threw someone into you. That automatically would qualify for disqualification under the quote-unquote WWE rule book. But, WWE doesn't really have a rule book. They just do what they want when they want because it's all scripted in case you weren't listening. But the fact is that if you're going to make something great, you do it by not having these redos. And honestly, people are tired enough as it is with all the rematches. God, it seems like everyone who has a title has a rematch clause. Oh, I get a rematch. I get a rematch now. I get a rematch now. You won and I get a rematch. Well, I never got my one-on-one rematch. I've been hearing this since Batista didn't get his Royal Rumble match at WrestleMania 30. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tired of hearing that too. WWE has got to do a better job of writing solid storylines that don't include rubber matches. We don't want rubber matches. We want things that are fresh. We want to go from one, we want people to have multiple feuds with multiple people. Like, when was the last time you saw AJ Styles wrestle somebody other than fucking Kevin Owens? Probably about 3 or 4 months ago. The fact is that they didn't make the U.S. title great. They made AJ Styles and Kevin Owens great. As soon as those two leave that title isn't going to be worth jack squat. And it really does, make a case that it's not the title that's on the man, it's the man that holds the title. And it truly is. Because if you put that U.S. title on a jobber, nobody cared about it. I mean, nobody cared about it when Dean Ambrose was a jobber and he had the longest reigning U.S. title reign ever. But more to that point, look at what happened on Monday with the Cruiserweight title. The Cruiserweight title was on Neville for 8 months. And that thing didn't see the light of day other than on pre-shows for pretty much 8 months. I mean, it's probably why Austin Aries left, because all he was seeing were pre-shows and Raws. The honest truth here, Tozawa was probably the best thing that could happen to the Cruiserweight title. And I'm glad to see that Tozawa has it, and I'm glad, and I hope that he keeps it. Whether or not that's the rematch clause for that title happens at SummerSlam or not, we will see. SummerSlam's already jammed-packed with matches, which, I will have a review video on, or I will have a predictions video on later on in the week. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think that the Cruiserweights are going to get any time at SummerSlam, which is sad. So, at this point, though, NXT 3 Brooklyn is going to be a very, very good. It's looking good. Because it's looking like they're either going to give a lot of time to the title matches, or they've got some surprises in store for us. So either way, that equates to some good wrestling. And I think that's all NXT's ever wanted to give us, is good wrestling. Now, SummerSlam, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be there doth may beeth too many matches on that card. I think they were trying to eliminate some matches on that card. They should have just had, Finn Balor versus, Bray Wyatt that night. But then they had like a carry thing going on with Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor. And after their match, Bray Wyatt won, and then he was like, "This is what you get when you send a boy to do the devil's work." And then I think he's like, I don't honestly believe that was red paint. I think it was ketchup or something to that effect, because it got all over his face, and you don't want a guy swallowing, lead-based paints right before SummerSlam. So then the whole thing with it being the Demon Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt, I mean, it's what we wanted, but there's just, what are they fighting over? Like, I've lost sight of what Bray Wyatt is fighting for. Because he's obviously not fighting for the Universal title. He's not fighting for any title. He's just fighting to be weird, which to me does not constitute a good match. Balor, on the other hand, I think his aim is to get back in that title picture. I don't think there was any way he was going to be able to do it with that title on Brock Lesnar. I'm glad that they sort of waited and, I guess, gave him something to fight for. But, we'll see where that goes. And then, of course, the only other thing of relevance that really happened was the Shield, or at least 2/3 of it, are back together. And boy, did they put a hurtin' on each other before putting a hurtin' on Sheamus and Cesaro. Personally, I hope this is not a one-time thing. I hope this is a bigger build and a slower burn towards a Shield reunion. If they walk out with the tag titles and Roman does walk out with the Universal title, that could be an epic finale and have the Shield just all walk in at once and just be like, we own this fucking company. I mean, that'd be a great end to SummerSlam, but I'll have more on that on my next show and for my predictions for SummerSlam. So this is Gary Maloney, and this has been Sacktown Slam. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.